What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And I want to talk about Assassin's Creed 2 here because I've been really wanting to make another video on this, is because I think that this game is by far the best one in the Ezio trilogy amongst from a Brotherhood and Revelations. But I still loved Brotherhood and Revelations to a further extent. But what I'm trying to get to is that, do I think that this game still holds up in 2024 in the Ezio trilogy? Yes, I really do, because it's the reason why I fell in love with this trilogy in the first place. You know, playing from Assassin's Creed 2007 and then the Ezio trilogy and then on to Black Flag and Assassin's Creed 3. And that's where I feel like that when it comes to Assassin's Creed 2, this game still holds up in 2024. Other than the fact that this game it is an older game. It is a little bit dated to a certain degree, but I think that this game still looks absolutely amazing via the backwards compatibility on PS5 or on Xbox. But either or, what really makes this game so unique than from playing this game back in the PS3 days and looking that far behind when I played this game for the first time on the PS3, and comparing that and or remembering playing that game on the PS3 and then playing it again on the backwards compatibility through the PlayStation 5. This game is just, it's so amazing because it's the storytelling, it's the character driven and progression with Ezio and him being a born nobleman and becoming that master assassin towards the end of the Ezio trilogy. And I think that's where this game really did an excellent job of showing an origin story. And I've talked about amongst other Assassin's Creed games, like when it came to Origins, when it came to Mirage, specifically because those games did a very good job when it came to origin stories and showing Basim's true character towards the end of Mirage and what his character story arc was in Valhalla. And I think it's just simply amazing. And I think that's what I'm really getting the vibes from, especially, going back to Assassin's Creed 2 now, other than, like playing this game on the PS3 days. And so I think that's where, when it comes to Renaissance Italy, I think it's definitely one of those most interesting and unique eras, other than like in Roman Brotherhood or Constantinople or known as Turkey in Revelations. But that's where Assassin's Creed 2 just does an amazing job of environmental storytelling, with the character progression with Ezio and his father before his family gets assassinated from the Gonfalonieri or whatever his name was. But either or, it was the fact that it was what this game was able to do and how it showed off from the origin standpoint, and where this game really benchmarked to that, from to Brotherhood and to Revelations. And I think that's why I think the Ezio trilogy is one of the most important ones, other than, from Assassin's Creed 2007. But that's where it originally started, obviously. So that's a little bit of a duh. But however, I think when it came to Assassin's Creed 2, this game still looks amazingly gorgeous. It's fantastic. And that's where this game really shows off its fidelity, even though it is a much older title. But I think that's where this game really does a lot of things to where, I'm sorry to say it, I like it a lot better than Brotherhood and Revelations, even though I did love Revelations and Brotherhood as well, because it's what Assassin's Creed 2 was able to pertain of that, with the story, not just with Ezio, but it's the overall, it's the setting, it's the structure of the game, it's where you can go in so many types of areas of Renaissance Italy. You can go to Venice, you can go to Forli in the expansion, and you have all these different types of breathtaking vistas and areas to explore. But that's where this game really shows off a sprawling, interconnected space when it comes to this kind of game. How it was able to really venture off into Brotherhood, showing off Rome and going to the Colosseum in Rome. It was awesome. And then going into Revelations, you're in Constantinople, or known as Turkey, or basically the home of Vlad the Impaler, which was actually really cool. I really like that aesthetic and the concept of where Revelations went. But we're talking about Assassin's Creed 2 here, because I think that's where this game really, I'm sorry, this game just does, it brings me back so much. And how Ezio becomes that assassin, or that beginner's assassin in 2. And then, going from that and going into Brotherhood and then going into Revelations, which Revelations actually made the whole entire Ezio trilogy come in full circle. And that's where I think Revelations did an amazing job with that, because Revelations was the pinnacle of the end of the Ezio franchise, because of the fact that you're following Altair from the first one, and it was the story of the Revelations that really made that whole entire game connect in a major story standpoint, and I think that's what made it so fantastic. But what makes Assassin's Creed 2 so fantastic as well is that this game, it shows off really good combalistic type of combat. And that's one thing that this game really does well, though, too, even though it is an older title. But however, when it came to Revelations and Brotherhood, the combat was more revamped. You were able to do more combalistic type of moves and weapon variants of any kind of weapons that you were able to pick out in the world or buy and that sort of thing, which was cool. But what made Assassin's Creed 2 so great, not just because of what the first one was able to use and pertain of that game, is the fact that the combalistic kills that you can do in Assassin's Creed 2 are much more brutal. And that is one thing I will say, is that when it came to Ezio, especially in the Ezio trilogy, other than Assassin's Creed Brotherhood or Revelations, in AC2, Ezio is more of a nimble and visually appealing type of person. And so that's what I'm saying, is that he's more nimble, he has more agility, and he's that much faster from Altair, from the first one. And I think that's where they really want to do a lot of things different in 2 than from what the first one was able to do, or have the foundation to that going into the Ezio trilogy, like AC2, Brotherhood, and Revelations. So that is why I'm saying that this game still holds up in 2024. And I really think that when it comes to most games in general, whether if they're old school and playing it through the backwards compatibility through the PlayStation 5 or Xbox or even on PC, I'm sure. But however, this game still holds up. I think that the gameplay it's still remarkable, and going through different types of vistas, like in Venice or in Romagna or Monteriggioni Villa, where you can upgrade the villa in that part of the game as well. It's so cool, and that's where AC2 really did a good job with some of its RPG mechanics. Yes, I did feel like that AC2 did implement some RPG mechanics into the fray when it came by upgrading your Monteriggioni Villa. And I think that's where it was more involved in Brotherhood. It was a little bit more involved, a little bit more in Revelations. But I'm sorry, I'm going to say this right now, is that I still think that Assassin's Creed 2 still is my favorite one in Ezio trilogy by far. Other than the fact, like I said, I did enjoy Brotherhood to a certain extent and Revelations. Now, there's one thing I really want to talk about here, is that what makes AC2 even more stand out for the better than from Brotherhood and Revelations are the time constraints. With the time constraints in AC Revelations and Brotherhood, they were really hard to. There were some areas in the game, whether if it was story-based or mission-based or vice versa, there were certain things that you had to do in order to get 100% sync. AC2 does not have this problem, and that's one of the reasons why AC2, I will always go back to AC2 because of this as well, is because it does not have any constraints, none whatsoever, when it comes to the memory sync 100%. That is one thing I really loved about 2, and it's, like I said, it's the reason why I go back to 2. More so than I do with Brotherhood and Revelations, because I felt like when it came to Brotherhood and Revelations, sometimes it was a little bit harder, even though that there are some parts in the game of those 2 games that are easy to get the 100% sync. But I'm just like, it just didn't work out for me. I often maybe complained about it a little bit, but however, I still think that they are fantastic games. What I'm trying to say is that I actually completely ignore the time constraints in Revelations and Brotherhood because it's just like, you know what is really the point? And so that's what I'm saying. It's the reason why I always go back to Assassin's Creed 2 is because it's not because you're playing as Ezio in 2. It's not because you're playing as Ezio in Brotherhood or Revelations. It's the fact that I love the settings in all three Ezio games. But I think when it came to AC2, I just think that Renaissance Italy is by far one of my favorite settings when it comes to the Assassin's Creed universe of games that we've already previously had. You know, amongst with Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is coming out later this year, which is going to be taking place in Japan. But however, I think that's one thing that the Assassin's Creed series as a whole has always been very cool and so lush and so beautiful is the fact that each setting of these different types of games in the series or in the saga, they're always going to show off different types of ways to do some different scenarios. But what I'm saying is that the settings has always been one of the most pinnacle things when it comes to the Assassin's Creed universe. You know, with AC 2007, you were in the Third Crusade. You know, Jerusalem, Acre, Damascus, and with AC2, you're in Florence. You're in Florence, Italy, or Renaissance Italy. You have Romagna, you have Forlì, you have Italy. I mean, you have and Venice. You know, you have all these breathtaking vistas, and that's where I think AC2 really does a good job with its visual fidelity and going along with that visual appealing and aesthetic as to why I think AC2, in my personal opinion, again, is my favorite one from the Ezio trilogy. But however, I think when it came to AC2 as well, is that you can't replay missions. That's one thing that this game you can't do. You can't replay missions, which is fine. But like I said, I always go back to this game because it's the fact that I love the parkour, even though that there are some jank to it. I love the combat systems and the focus of it. It was very influential in how they were able to revamp it into Brotherhood and Revelations, and that's where I'm saying that is why I'm saying that Assassin's Creed 2 still holds up. I really think it does, and it's fascinating, and it's the reason why I fell in love with this game in the first place. You know, other than playing from the first one on the PS3 days. And now once I got my hands on this game for the PS3, I actually have the collector's edition for this game as well. And so it's the fact that this game is utterly inspiring. It's the reason why I love this series as a whole is because not just from Assassin's Creed 2007, it's because of AC2. I think AC2 just really holds dear close to my heart because you're playing as a badass like Ezio Auditore da Firenze, but it's the setting. You know, I've always been a huge fan of Renaissance Italy. I think it's one of the best settings I've ever seen in a video game format. And you know, amongst other games in the Ezio games, you know, like Brotherhood and Revelations, but you know, going beyond that to AC3 in the American Revolution, you have the Caribbean in AC4 Black Flag, and then Shadows, you know, it takes place in Japan. And so that's what I'm saying. The settings in these games have always been the most important and showing off of how far this series has gone. And so I really think that when it comes to Shadows, though, I'm really skeptical of it still, and I'm really hopeful for that game. But it's like I said before, again, I want to see gameplay on it with this year's Ubisoft Forward before I make any type of judgment or how convinced I should be with it. And so all I can say is this. Like I said, do I still think that AC2 still holds up this year in 2024? Yes. I thoroughly believe that, and I think it's still one of my greatest games ever when it comes to the Assassin's Creed games. And so it's fantastic. But anyways, too much further ado, this is Jake from Citizen JV. Thank you for tuning in. Greatly appreciated. Any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. And you guys have a good rest of your week. I'll chat you guys later.